You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams, live from the Rightside studios. Local, state, and national, all the issues, man. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Hey, glad you're here. It is Monday. It is Monday, July 25th. The show is live, and we are running from right here at Rightside Studios. And sitting over there across the way from me, the Boomer is running the board. Hey, bud, how you doing? Good day. I don't think your mic's on, my brother.
It was not. Doing great. It's a good day.
That's not a good sign when you say you're doing great and your mic's not even on.
That was my bad.
So many buttons over there. Anyway. All right. Yeah. Glad you're here, bud. And we got plenty of stuff on the show for you. Let me tell you, while he gets the triple dipper sound effect ready for you, let me just tell you right now. So coming up at 3 o'clock, Dale Jackson, my buddy from WVNN in Huntsville, will be here talking about some things happening with the governor and the governor's response to some stuff. I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. But yeah, at 3 o'clock, Dale Jackson, you're going to want to hear that. 3:30, Boomer and the Birdman. So we got Boomer and the Birdman going to be on the air with me. That's the team that helps run things in the background. And so, yeah, Boomer and the Birdman, we ask questions. They come at it from their generational perspectives. And, you know, you'll be surprised. We're not far off. I may be the old guy in the studio, but we're not far off at all, if at all. So that's happening at 3:30, Boomer and the Birdman. And then we still got a triple dipper on top of that. So triple dipper sound effect there. Boomer, go ahead and hit it.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the triple dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you have got to know we're going to be running with today. I'm calling the first one is more like a question. Hey, Governor Ivey, who's in charge? That's my question. Now, I'm not a guy who's out there trying to insult the governor. I'm not. But I will tell you, I'll call him good and I'll call him bad. And right now, there's several things that have happened of late where you look at it and go, I'm sorry, Governor, you are the governor, right? Are you in charge? Because that's an important piece of the overall picture here. And there are things happening where the response is coming out of our office along the lines of, well, I did not get consulted on this, or this is not my position. Well, then why is it happening without you saying something more forceful like, hey, stop it, because I'm the governor and I said so? Anyway, it's about leadership. Hey, Governor, who's in charge is number 1 on the triple dipper. Number 2, a walk in Biden's world. Every once in a while we have to do that, a walk in Biden's world. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about things that are happening because it is a broad world, and the United States foreign policy and domestic policy impacts the world at large. And you know what? There's stuff out there that is really not making a lot of news that needs to be known. So number 2 on the triple dipper, a walk in Biden's world. And then number 3, I'm calling it, what's the agenda? What is the agenda? I mean, how many times have you seen something happen you think, okay, is that one crazy person doing that? Or is something happening that is like, you know, part of a broader agenda? Well, we're going to examine some things, some craziness, some total wokeness, some progressive liberal stuff, but you got to look at it and go, what's the agenda here? Well, listen, like I always do, though, let me just dive right into my opening comments, my monologue, if you will, the right side way, we call it. So let me say this. I like adages. Adages? What's he talking about? Adages. You know, maybe I'm simple, but I like it when there's a short, easily remembered truth that's spoken like a quip or a phrase and it sticks with you, right? So an adage is officially known as, here's the quote, you ready? A brief piece of wisdom in the form of a short philosophical and memorable saying. Okay. A lot of times an adage is a one-liner. It might even be humorous. It might serve as a warning. It usually transcends time. It comes from experience. Sometimes they work best like in a family, like when Forrest Gump's mama told him, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That was her adage. It was a family saying. Sometimes, though, they can be multi-generational and span all across demographics, like the old adage, no pain, no gain, or you can't, never did, and won't, never will. Those are adages. My favorites, though, are the ones that come from a kind of a sardonic sense of humor, like the ones often called Murphy's Laws of Combat. You see, there's an old classic treatise called On War by Prussian strategist Karl von Clausewitz, in which he outlines the principles of warfare. was to find the means to keep things going in the right direction in combat. Well, some Joe Snuffy the ragbag somewhere decided the real principles were better labeled as Murphy's laws of combat for all the things that can go wrong. And there's different versions, but here's one list that I like. You ready? Let's try a few. Here's the first one. If it's stupid but works, it's not stupid. That's good. Boomer's already laughing. Number 2, don't look conspicuous. It draws fire. Number 3, never forget your weapons are made by the lowest bidder. Oh, see, now we're getting down to that sardonic sense of humor. Number 4, no plan survives first contact. That's true. Here's the next one. Try to look unimportant because snipers shoot at those that look important. Yeah, there you go. How about this one? The important things are always simple. The simple things are always hard, and the easy way is always mind. Makes you think. Or how about this? If you're short of everything except the enemy, you are in combat. Or another one, incoming fire always has the right of way. Or if the enemy is in range, so are you. Or how about this? Tracers work both ways. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. The last one is this. Professional soldiers are predictable. Unfortunately, the world is full of amateurs. Yes, it is. Adages, man. Sometimes, and by the way, some of those might be funnier if you've been shot at, but there's some simple truth wrapped up in those statements. And it sounds to me like they were written from experience. But here's 2 more, and these 2 are designed to lead to my point for today. The first was allegedly first said by Benjamin Franklin, and even used publicly by Winston Churchill. It's the old adage that a failure to plan is a plan to fail. And the other one, though, is from an unknown source, although I've heard it many times, that, quote, when making a plan, remember the enemy gets a vote. So one of those means clearly if we don't think things through and arrive on the scene with a well-thought-out plan with contingencies and logistics and timelines, that we're dooming ourselves to an increased likelihood of failure. But the other one means that as surely as we're making our plans, the enemy is making their plans as well. In other words, when the bullets start flying, the enemy has a say in the final outcome, and we'd better remember that. Okay, so what's my point here? Well, Charlene and I were talking just this morning, and she brought up the midterm elections that are coming up, how critical they are, how important it is that we put a stop to the recklessness of the so-called progressive agenda. But then she put out this question. She asked, but what's the plan? It's a great question, but one that does not appear to have a cohesive answer at this point. If the liberal Democrats lose control of the House and maybe even the Senate, what will the Republicans actually do? What is the plan? I mean, surely there's a plan, right? One would hope so. I remember former Speaker Newt Gingrich, who led the charge into a midterm in 1994 with the Contract with America. The Contract with America was an actual plan of all the things that they were committed to achieve if the people gave the Republicans the majority. It was part of the plan that swept Republicans and conservatism into an opportunity for real change. One historical version said it like this, quote, the Contract with America was introduced 6 weeks before the 1994 congressional election, the first midterm election of President Bill Clinton's administration. It was signed by all but 2 of the Republican members of the House and all of the party's non-incumbent Republican congressional candidates. That means everybody was pretty much on board. The proponents of it say the contract was revolutionary in its commitment to offering specific legislation for a vote, describing in detail the precise plans of congressional representatives, and broadly nationalizing the congressional election. That means it took it out of just being local. It made it feel like there was a team that was marching in, y'all. It was a plan. Furthermore, its provisions represented the view of many conservative Republicans on the issues of things like shrinking the size of government, lowering taxes, entrepreneurial activity and free market and tort reform and welfare reform. So yeah, the 1994 elections with the Contract for America, the plan, it resulted in Republicans gaining 54 House and 9 U.S. Senate seats, flipping both chambers. They had a plan, and people rallied around it. The contract was seen as a triumph by party leaders, with Minority Whip Newt Gingrich and Dick Armey and the American conservative movement in general. You see, it was a plan, y'all. Like I said, people will rally around a plan if they know what it is. We saw the same thing in 2010 when many of us ran for the first time on an agenda here in Alabama. We called it the Handshake with Alabama. It was our agenda. It was our plan. We all ran on it. We said if we got in there and got the majority, and we did, we got the supermajority, we would put these things into action. We took the Alabama State House majority into the red zone for the first time in 136 years by campaigning statewide on a plan. You see, plans matter. Plans unify. Plans breed success because they give focus and they maintain direction. And a lack of a plan is indeed a plan to fail. But the enemy gets a vote? Yes. When the shots ring out, they start flying in both directions. Don't think for a minute the Democrats are going to sit idly by and just let Republicans have their way. How do we nullify progressive influence? How do we galvanize grassroots support for when those times get dicey politically? How is it we can keep the caucus focused when there's different versions of Republicans, all of whom are going to become the target of the left when it casts its own vote on the plan? But is there even a plan? Are you hearing about one? I hear little tangential pieces once in a while about how we're going to do this committee, or we're going to reverse the January 6th commission, or we're going to deal with stuff like, investigations on Hunter Biden, whatever. Those are not enough. How about the agenda for legislative action? How about matters related to fiscal conservatism? How about downsizing government? How about backtracking on regulation? How about putting us back into energy independence? How about a plan? You see, the midterms are right around the corner, y'all. Listen to me when I say it. Get this, a mere 100 days away. So what's the plan, Republicans? Is there a plan? Give us something to rally around, because the enemy gets a vote too, so it better be a good plan. But the old adage remains that a failure to plan is a plan to fail. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Well, there it is. Yeah, man, I'll tell you, in 2010, when we ran a bunch of Republicans for seats they said couldn't be taken, with Democrats had controlled the state house for 136 years, we ran as an organized bunch of folks. It wasn't a bunch of disparate campaigns. There was a plan. There was this thing called the handshake with Alabama. It meant something. Like the contract with America, it meant something. I'm just telling you, folks, we need a plan. Midterms are coming. Let's rally up behind it and get her done. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We got a whole lot more. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. All right, hey, listen, I got to tell you guys, there's a few new things get used to with the new formatting of the show. So we are operating out of the Rightside Studios. That's big doings. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. We are so proud of the studio. You can see it, by the way. Here's a couple things for you to know. We are live streaming this show. So every single day, as I sit here talking into the mic, it's not just that we are, on the air on radio. We're actually live streaming the show too. So if you want to, if I get to where I'm sounding ornery, you want to see whether my face looks like I really am being ornery, you can go to the live stream and see. So yeah, that's right now up on. I guess the easiest way to find it is go to our website, rightsideradio.org, rightsideradio.org, and you'll see us sitting there. We got the overhead view with Boomer and I both doing our thing. We got the side view. We got the in my face view. But anyway, yeah, it worked out really good the other day too. We had guests in studio, Boomer, and they were both. Sitting right here on camera, streaming the whole thing, right?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I got to see it all online too.
I mean, yeah, it's just I'm still amazed at all the things we're doing here that we,
It's pretty impressive, and honestly, it's nice to see your beautiful face on the live stream.
Okay, turn your mic off now. That's good. All right. Anyway, that being said, there's lots of stuff happening. One of which is, by the way, some of you guys are our regular callers, and some of y'all just want to call in for the first time. Make sure you know we have a new number. All right, so don't call the old number. That goes straight to the Huntsville station. But literally, the new number is our own personal toll-free number, 833-687-4448. Here's how to remember it. It's 833-68-RIGHT. Oh, yeah. 833-68-RIGHT. Phil, how'd you get that number? Well, the 833 I couldn't help, but the 68 part's because I had a 68 Mustang in high school, and the right, well, that explains itself. So anyway, 833-68-RIGHT. That is the number for the show. And I know we had several callers the other day. We had some of our, I think Steve from Tennessee called just to say he had heard the new number, wanted to make sure it worked, or he wanted to test it out or something. But anyway, we appreciate all of you guys who've already been calling in on it. And just know, folks, we're going to keep putting it out there. 833-68-RIGHT. That's the number to the studio. A couple other things for you to know. First of all, we are hiring. What? Yes. It's on the website, rightsideradio.org. On the main page, there's a spot there that literally says Rightside is hiring. Click it, and it drops down. It tells you what. But if you're one of those people who, you can shake hands and look them in the eye, you can make your own hours, you're motivated, and you want to earn a good living, and you want to be a part of the Rightside team, we would love to talk to you. So, yes, check out the job description right there on the rightsideradio.org website, rightsideradio.org. It's got all the stuff on it. Okay, moving on. The first part of the Triple Dipper, which we're going to get more into when we come back from the break. I'm a firm believer that, yes, there's three branches of government, right? State and federal has it. We have the legislative branch, judicial branch, and the executive branch. There's your civics lesson 101 for the day. But the executive branch does have certain authorities. It is allowed to do certain things and to do them differently. The executive branch is the executive. It's like the governor is the chief executive of the state. And there's different styles. I mean, I had a chance to be around Governor Riley before he left office, and he had a far more direct style. It was good. I mean, you knew who was in charge when Governor Riley was in the room, and I don't mind that a bit. I mean, that's probably I probably respond to that myself pretty well because that's the military background, the direct and the let's go do this and here's how we do that. I had a friend of mine who worked for Governor Riley who said it was hard to brief him because he usually already knew the answers because he usually had studied up before you came in to brief him. Usually he said we had a morning meeting every day at like 7:30 or 8. I've forgotten what it was. And usually by the time you got to the morning meeting, he was already there, coat and tie on, cup of coffee in hand, and had already read like 4 different newspapers and was ready to discuss the issues that were affecting the day. Well, then we had Governor Bentley. And Governor Bentley, I mean, for all of the issues that caused him to have to leave office, let me set those aside just for a second and say Governor Bentley had a totally different style. His was far more of a laid-back, sort of mild-mannered style. And now Governor Ivy's the governor. She took over when Governor Bentley left. Well, let me just tell you what we're not seeing right now. What we're not seeing is the direct kind of take charge leadership in the executive branch that we have had under previous administrations and that we certainly are seeing in other places. If you look next door, right next door on our southern border at Florida, you're going to see a governor who calls for things to happen. You're going to see a governor who rejects things when they happen. You're going to see a governor who says that won't happen or on my watch this will happen. We are not seeing that in Alabama right now. What we're seeing is more of a go along to get along kind of administration. How, 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 do, how do you feel about that, Governor? Well, I just that is not the way I would like to see things go. Well, you're the governor, and I got some examples. This is not going to be just you know the deal. I've done some research. I've pulled some articles. I've got some things for you to consider. But what we're not seeing right now is the kind of leadership that takes charge and runs the show. And we need that, especially right now. All right, we're going to a break. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. right, Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live from the Rightside studios. Yep. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Okay, hey, listen. Number one on the Triple Dipper. I gave it kind of a question title. The title of this section of the Triple Dipper is, Hey, Governor Ivey, who's in charge? Why would I ask that question? Well, first of all, let me just say this. I'll give credit where credit's due. I'll call out the right side of things. I'll call out things that I think need to be improved. All right? So there's that. Like, for instance, I will say this. Here's a good news before I get into the things that frustrate me. A good news piece is what's today, the 25th? Yeah, 2 days ago, over the weekend, Governor Ivey announced a new state record all-time low unemployment rate. Now, I will say this. There are a lot of things that the legislature has done to help build that together. She signed the bills, but she does have some say in what happens economic development-wise, obviously. She has an administration that is pro-economic development. So on Friday, Governor Ivey announced that Alabama's preliminary seasonally adjusted June unemployment rate is 2.6%. That's amazing. And that's down from 2.7% the month before, and down again from 3.5% this time last year. So that's a great thing for Alabama. And I'm not, by the way, I am not going to be one of those shows that just literally only focuses on what I don't like. All right, this ain't no 3-hour gripe session for me. But the good news rolls in, says Governor Ivey, as we reach another unemployment milestone of 2.6% for the third consecutive month. Alabama has set a record low unemployment rate. That's good stuff. Biggest gains were in the trade, the transportation, and utility sector, which picked up 7,200 jobs. Construction sector was next with 7,000 jobs. Manufacturing was 6,700 jobs. County with the lowest unemployment rate, Shelby County at 2.3%. County with the highest unemployment rate, Wilcox County, at 10.1%. City with the lowest, Trussville, 2%. The city with the highest unemployment rate, Selma, 8.7%. Nonetheless, though, overall state unemployment, big doings there. And so I congratulate the Ivey administration for being able to take a victory lap on that. Well, I got some things, though, that are going to curl your hair about stuff that's also happening, though, in our state government. That just appears like she has a laissez-faire kind of a, wow, that happened? Well, I don't agree with that happening. Well, that's not the way we want an executive to respond. Let me do this, though. I got a caller on line one there, Boomer. Is that right? Yeah, let me jump over real quick. Oh, it's Sparky. Hey, Sparky from Harvest. How you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm outstanding. I've enjoyed your segment where you talked about Republicans having to have a plan.
Oh, yeah.
And I agree 100%. I think perhaps Kay Ivey's plan is to be laissez-faire because she enjoys such a super majority and has very little about it. And I don't know, there's something about motivation. But the motivation for Republicans running in November and hoping to get a majority in the House and the Senate, it can't just be rhetoric of we're going to fight Nancy Pelosi, we're going to fight the Biden woke agenda. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You got to be able to articulate what are we going to do if we get a majority. These are the things we are tangibly promising you we're going to do. Like you said, a contract is nice as opposed to intangible. We're going to fight them, and we're going to fight them tooth and nail. We're going to oppose their agenda. Like, okay, well, those are nice words, but you got to get in there and dig a hole of a certain dimension and depth, don't you?
Yeah, and Sparky, I mean, wouldn't you agree, man? I think the people rally around a plan. People like to know what the plan is, don't you think?
Well, they do, but they also admire a very clearly stated objective.
Yeah.
And because a lot of politicians are really good at sort of dancing around the topic and then saying, well, we're certainly going to address that. And that turns me off in a split second.
Yeah.
And you say, no. We're not going to sort of address that issue. We're not going to talk about that issue. Tell me what you're going to do to make this happen, and what can I do to help?
Yeah, perfectly put. I mean, and you're right. And there's more necessary than just saying I'm a Trump Republican and I'm against Nancy Pelosi, because you're right. That's when you if that's all you got. Well, I mean, wow. Okay, what are you going to do? Well, hey, Sparky, thanks for the call, man. Appreciate you as always.
All right, man.
Yeah, and he's right. Having a plan means something. And by the way, the plan can adjust. it's not like the plan is fixed and cast in stone and cannot. And you gotta have the ability to flex. So I get where plans can adjust, and sometimes they adjust on the run. I mean, we used to have an old saying, you got to be more like Gumby. We used to say Semper Gumby, as a matter of fact, a lot of times, which just meant always flexible. So if you can't adjust on the run, then you're so rigid that your plan is going to fail probably anyway, because you're not able to adjust to the obstacles that the enemy throws at you along the way. However, that being said, if you go in without a plan to begin with, it just reduces your chances of success right up front exponentially, mitigates it completely sometimes. All right, let me jump back to the triple dipper piece. Great call from Sparky. So, hey, Governor Ivey, who's in charge? Here's one of the reasons that I came to that whole section of the triple dipper here. Story off AL.com. And because this happened to me with the military one time, it really caught my attention. I'll never forget, literally, I retired in 2017 at 30 years as an 06. I retired, and I spent my last, several weeks on active duty down at MacDill Air Force Base at SOCOM. And so I was down there, and I come home, and 2 years later, 2 years, I got notice that they were pulling part of my pay, like 1 day or 2 days of pay. What? Because they said that they couldn't find records to substantiate those 2 or 3 days or whatever it was. I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't even submit for pay until someone signs off on it. And I'm an 06. You think I'm going to lie about an extra day or two of pay? Well, they were taking my pay whether I wanted them to or not. They actually wound up garnishing my next tax refund. And it didn't matter who I called, how I dealt with it, whether I could deal with anybody at, at national or state or anything else for that matter. It was just too bad for my luck. Well, what's going on right now is the same type thing with Alabamians all over the place. Story on AL.com dated this past Thursday or Friday. Alabama wants its unemployment checks back. What? Yeah, so Alabama wants its unemployment checks back. So the story starts off with a lady named Erica Martin talking about how her daughter plays the French horn in Opelika school band, but Alabama just recently informed her it wants $15,000 of the pandemic unemployment that it paid to her back. So now she can barely afford rent and let alone afford her band fees. This is unconscionable to me. Now, first of all, does it sound galling? Yes, it does. But at the same time, you think, okay, there's got to be a means by which common sense can prevail, right? Well, it is state government, so sometimes you wonder. Well, in other states right now, the appeals on questions regarding unemployment are being met with a reasonable timeline, like Kansas, 15 days. Alabama is years behind right now. There are 12,000, apparently, according to AL.com, 12,000 backlogged appeals. Erica Martin is just one of many. Alabama apparently reported overpaying $164 million in unemployment in 2020 and 2021. What in God's name? So you look at it and go, okay, this is really screwed up. But it's not just screwed up state government, our taxpayer dollars. Now it's also screwed up, oh, by the way, in a way that impacts people's lives in a horribly negative fashion. I mean, how do people who were on unemployment until most recently suddenly come up with $15,000? You've got one right now who was on the phone talking to AL.com for the article. What is her name? Melissa Fass. And she works at the Space and Rocket Center. Or she did. She worked at the Space and Rocket Center before getting laid off during the pandemic. She wound up moving to Florida. She got notification that she owed $1,200. While she's talking to them, she opened up her appeal online to see how it was and was shocked to tell AL.com live while she was talking to them the overpayment in her account was now increased to $20,000. So during the pandemic, the federal government paid out hundreds of billions of dollars to states, right? Paid people the extra $600 of unemployment money to keep them, from not working in some cases. But because the government threw money out there so fast, the states weren't always ready for it. Well, that being said, Alabama saw a whopping 580% increase in its claims between May of 2019 and May of 2020. And it just gets worse from there. Well, right now in Alabama, the average appeal is lasting 566 days. Just unreal. I got another one here that he owed $7,200 in back payments. How do they expect this to work? Well, so you look at it and go, okay, hang on. It's the Department of Labor. It's all right. Governor Ivey, she says she's a conservative. She's going to be in charge, right? And the Secretary of Labor, I mean, Secretary Washington works for her, right? So Secretary of Labor Fitzgerald Washington responds to the governor. Well, what's the governor's response? The governor's office says they were not consulted about the department's efforts to recover money from workers. And the department responded to her inquiries, saying that it would consider making changes. Who is in charge here? Is she or is she not the executive in charge of our state? And you've got all these citizens right now that are being dunned for monies that the state knows they can't pay back. The state has a glitch, it overpaid. The state better figure out how to handle it, like real quick. And by God, I'll tell you right now, anybody who says that they're the executive needs to be able to look at the Secretary of Labor and say, you will figure this out today, and it will not involve citizens having to cough up money to pay back what the federal government gave to us to give to them. So here it is. Gina Mayola, spokesperson for the governor, says, we have asked Labor Secretary Fitzgerald Washington to provide us with solutions to resolve this concerning situation. And then went on to say the governor was not consulted. And the department then responds back, it would consider making changes. Well, who's in charge, Governor Ivey? Really? Well, I got a few more of these, like, I don't know, what did the Department of Public Health say? When they talked about normalizing masks, did the governor respond to that? Or how about this? Where's the governor on National Guard being just axed right now? Well, I'll tell you what, I got about a minute for the next break. Do I have a caller hanging on the line, Boomer? I do? All right, let me just jump over there. It's going to be a change of subject, it looks like, but I'll take it real quick. Jerry from Decatur. Jerry, how you doing, man?
Hey, Phil, how you doing today?
I'm good, sir. What's on your mind?
I'm doing good, too. Hey, I just wanted to speak to you about this upcoming election and be mindful of what happened in 1992 when Bill Clinton was president and the House flipped in 1992. And Bill Clinton brought a lot of liberalism, and Hillary did too. You remember her health care went to a flop. And so when he was president, Newt Gingrich told him, look, if you want to be a halfway decent president, you're going to do things our way because we control the House. And so that's the reason why I'm speaking about that this election is so important that we do flip the House to get to hogtie President Biden with all of his stupid policies.
You're right.
Because it just ain't going to fly. And that's why this is important. A lot of people that's voting today don't remember 1992. In the 90s was pretty good. But it was because we had a Republican House and Senate. And so we just have to be mindful that this is very, very important that the American people vote this time. And let's get this thing straight and flip this thing over and let's get it straightened out.
Jerry,
And
I totally,
of course,
I totally agree. And Jerry, I hate it, but I'm up
Yes,
against
sir.
a break, man. I got to run to a break right now. But you are perfectly on track, man. Great call, and thank you for that.
Yes.
All right, Boomer, take us to the break, man. We got to run it for our run long on this segment. I think I already did run long, but anyway. And by the way, Jerry's right. That goes back to that plan. 92, Clinton's in office. By 94, a contract with America. The plan. Republicans laid it on thick and won big. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid conservative and just plain right. Story off of 1819 News. My friends at 1819, Erica Thomas wrote this one, dated July 23rd, so it came out over the weekend. So you may recall that just last week, I'm one of those who took issue with this on social media, the Alabama Department of Public Health. Oh, yes. The Faucis of Alabama. The Alabama Department of Public Health issued put out this tweet. I know they've got some intern there working who thought they were just doing a good thing, I'm sure. But you know what? They haven't backtracked that I know of. But they put out this tweet that basically called for the normalizing of masks. I think it said something like, if you have to question, then just go ahead and wear the mask. Let's normalize masking in Alabama. How about no? How about that's not normal? And I refuse to say, hey, this is going to be great. Let's go ahead and just call it a new normal. No. Well, you look at that and go, okay, it's the Alabama Department of Public Health. Do they answer to the governor? Technically they don't, which is one of the things I think needs to change. Nobody realized this until the pandemic. I spent 8 years in Montgomery serving in the legislature, had no idea that our esteemed Dr. Scott Harris, who serves as the state health officer, is not accountable to the governor at all. However, they did work hand in glove quite often during the pandemic. Well, so Governor Ivey's response to ADPH, the Department of Public Health's idea of normalizing masking, she says it's not in her vocabulary to do that. So Alabama Governor Kay Ivey, according to 1819 News, who previously supported executive orders requiring masking, opposes the ADPH's push to, quote, normalize masking now. Following an increase in COVID-19 cases across the country, the ADPH put out that tweet that I just told you about a minute ago, even had a little short video with it of everybody happy wearing their masks, although you can't tell because they're smiling behind the mask. When asked if Ivey agrees with the campaign to normalize masking, the governor's office responded with a classic Iveyism. No step too high for a high stepper. Well, this was her quote. A seafood restaurant would serve Rocky Mountain oysters before there was a mask mandate in the state of Alabama. What? The governor's office said in a statement, normalizing masking, COVID-19 restrictions, and the like are not anywhere in Governor Ivey's vocabulary. Okay. How about this? Governor Ivey did call for masking, and she stood alongside Dr. Scott Harris, who presides over the Alabama Department of Public Health. In July of 2020, the article points out, she tweeted out then on her official account, we're going to need everyone's help if we're going to slow the spread and turn the trends in different directions. We're asking everyone to do a better job of practicing social distancing, personal hygiene, and now wearing face masks. A year later, she even blamed Alabamians who had not gotten vaccinated as the cause of the increased numbers in the state of Alabama, not hers. I look at this and go, okay, where in here, though, am I seeing anything that says, I'm the governor? That ain't happening. She says that she doesn't like this. It's not in her vocabulary, but she's the governor. Who is in charge? So the Department of Public Health puts out, let's normalize masking, and the governor's response is, well, that's just not my vocabulary. It was before. You know what we really want to hear, Governor? We want to hear, not on my watch. Department of Public Health, get your act together. Take down that tweet. Because you know what? You may not answer to me, but I can meet with the legislature and we can find a way to, pull the purse strings. I'm just saying, leadership is not what we're seeing right now. And then we got one of my favorites. Story off of Fox News. Representative Michael Waltz, himself a combat veteran, a former Green Beret, still serves in the Florida National Guard, I believe. Did you know, by the way, all you folks, all you right side ruffians out there, we're about to potentially lose 18% of Alabama's National Guard due to COVID vaccine mandates? Did you know that? Did you know that we're about to lose 18% of our National Guard, which includes F-16 fighter wings, infantry battalions, special forces units, EOD groups, signal battalions. Governor of Oklahoma says they're not standing for it. Governor of Florida says they're taking action. Governor of North Carolina wrote to the Secretary of Defense. Governor of Alabama hasn't said a word. Who is in charge? You're the commander-in-chief of our Alabama National Guard, and I hadn't heard boo on this topic. Where is Governor Ivey on this? Is she in charge? Is somebody in her office advising her on this? Let's hope so. Hey, coming up next, my buddy Dale Jackson coming on to kind of talk this through with me. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams from the Rightside Studios here, local, state, national. Man, we got all the issues. And like the dude just said, yes, we are solid, conservative, and just plain right. All right, providing some commentary to the section I just did. I'm bringing on a buddy of mine who's been doing this a lot longer than I have. Dale Jackson is the program director and morning show guy at Cumulus Broadcasting's WVNN. That's 92.5 FM, 770 AM, one of the channels that we're on out of Huntsville. Dale Jackson, are you with us?
I am here.
You are, my brother. Well, hey, listen, dude, I'm doing this segment during my Triple Dipper today. I called it, Hey, Governor Ivey, who's in charge? and I've got things like, I don't know if you saw it, but the Department of Labor is now asking for people to pay back their unemployment, and the governor's response is, I wasn't consulted on that. And they say they'll consider her request to make changes. And I'm thinking, who is in charge? Well, then there's a whole thing about Department of Public Health asking for the normalization of masking, and she just says, well, that's not even in my vocabulary. But we're not really seeing any, exerting of leadership here. Your thoughts?
Yeah, she should be speaking out and speaking directly to these people. There's always been this question about whether or not Dr. Scott Harris is running the show on the masking and the COVID stuff, or is Kay Ivey. And I think it's pretty clear that it is, in fact, Scott Harris, not Kay Ivey. And the question is, what's she going to do about this? Is she going to rein him in, or is she just think that saying, I don't like this is going to be enough?
Yeah, and you spent time in the military too. I mean, I'm not looking for a drill sergeant here, but I am looking for somebody to actually have the reins in their hand and say, not on my watch. But we're just not hearing that kind of thing out of her office.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that, excuse me, I think that's exactly right. But she seems to be having some problems even making a statement at all. It's all going through her press secretary, not her directly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I've seen her do. I mean, she didn't even do much in the way of campaign stops. We literally, during the last campaign, she had the luxury of never doing a debate, not getting on stage with her competition, and just kind of riding it out. Well, we're kind of watching her continue to ride out, even just serving in office. And by the way, I like Kay Ivey. I know her personally. I've enjoyed her company, but nonetheless, it's like she's just kind of gotten tired on the job.
Yeah, I'm not looking for a friend.
Yeah, I want a governor.
Yeah, that's not what I'm looking. I'm not looking for a friend here. Look, she has to lead. That's what she has to do. And I think she's just hoping that her saying this will be enough. I think she might need to pick a fight here.
Well, and I think she should pick a fight. But when's the last time you saw her pick a fight? I mean, can you picture one? No. What do you think?
And the question will be: is he going to listen to her at the end of the day on this, or is he going to try to put some sort of order in play? That remains to be seen. Look, the legislature had the ability and the intention, it seemed, to kind of change the way things were being done with the state health officer, how he was appointed, who's in charge, that other kind of stuff. They never really followed through on that, did they?
No, they didn't want to, and I couldn't figure out why. I mean, why would we not want to see the Senate confirm someone to be the right person? I mean, look down in Florida. The governor actually picks, what's his name, Lapido? The governor picks somebody to be his health officer who also aligns with his administration, and then they get confirmed by the state Senate. Why would we not do that here? Why do we have other medical professionals picking the one for us who then makes policy without being elected or accountable? It makes no sense.
I think that's it. I think there's they don't want anyone to be him to be accountable anymore. They want him to operate outside of the political realm, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly where it is. Well, that era is over. Okay, now it is science is political now. Gender is a spectrum. Okay, we need to have those conversations, and if that's how we're going to play, you can't have one side saying, "Well, this isn't political, so we need to leave it out of the political realm," and the other side going, well, gender is a spectrum. A boy can be a girl. Masks don't work, but you should wear them anyway. Well, the other side has to say, okay, now we want to play.
Well, yeah, and here's the other one. I don't know if you saw this or not. Did you see the thing about the Department of Labor? AL.com broke a story a few days ago, and I hate to give AL.com too much credit, but they deserve it on this one.
Hey, they stumble into stuff occasionally.
Yeah, they walk into it, blind squirrel, big nut. But nonetheless, they got a story out the last few days, says the Department of Labor is deciding now that it paid people too much unemployment, and it's sending people bills for like $15,000 and $20,000, telling them to repay the unemployment compensation they received during the pandemic, and people are freaking out. And the governor's now Secretary Fitzgerald Washington, he does answer to the governor, and yet his department has said they will consider her request for some changes. That's the response. That doesn't sound like somebody scared of the boss. You know what I'm saying?
I don't understand why she doesn't want to be in a situation where she's going to be more of a leader. I just don't get that. These are winning issues for her. If she wants to go that path and talk about, I'm not going to make these people repay that stuff. By the way, who's getting $25,000 more in unemployment?
Yeah, I know. But you know what? I remember, now Kay Ivey used to be a firebrand. I remember back in 2010, watching her on the campaign stump, and she was a hoot, man. And after we all got elected in 2010, and soon thereafter, I saw her get in one of Governor Bentley's staffers' face and let them know that they better start including her in some conversations. And she was having none of it. And I just don't know if that same Kay Ivey is there right now.
Yeah, I don't know if that's who she's going to be or who she was ever intending to. Don't think that's who she is now.
Well, nonetheless, we do need some, something besides lethargy in the office. So the other one that's got me, kind of fired up, and you've heard me talk about it before, I think, is this whole just deal with the Alabama National Guard. We're looking at losing upwards of 18% of our National Guard because of Biden's vaccine mandates, and like 60,000 guardsmen nationwide. Story on Fox News today talked about the fact that it is apparent they're going to let it go through. We've got the governor of Oklahoma saying, ain't going to happen. I'm going to pay them out of state funds if I have to. Texas saying something like that. Florida saying something like that. Governor of Virginia wrote a letter to the SecDef wanting to know what in God's name he was going to do about this. I haven't heard anything out of Kay Ivey. Have you?
No, I haven't heard from her about that. I guess it's up to her to push them out, or is it up to the National Guard command nationally? I don't know the answer to that because no one's made a move.
Well, yeah,
it's over. No one's making a move.
Well, yeah, they did make a move from the federal side. They said, all you guardsmen, guess what? No more paying benefits. So if you report for duty, you won't get paid. Your retirement benefits are cut off.
Is that actually happening, though?
It's happening right now.
Okay, all right. I didn't know that because that's a pretty big story, and I have not heard a single guardsman come out and say, I didn't get paid, or I was told not to go to drill, or any of that stuff. I don't think has happened. But if it has, we need to learn more about that. That should be a much bigger story. And I've been saying this all along. If I was a guardsman and didn't want to get the shot, I wouldn't, because I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen. Whether it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now, someone's going to get into office, and they're going to turn around and go, pay them.
Yep.
And they're going to pay them for all the time that they got robbed.
I'm hoping it happens like next February, right after the inauguration of the new Senate and House Republican majorities. That's where I hope it happens.
Yeah, Biden won't sign that.
Well, maybe, but there's ways around, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how the National Defense Authorization Act gets passed at all with things he wants if they can't get those things reinstated.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a real question here, because you have guys like Barry Moore who's saying, I'm not going to vote for it, and making that clear. And I think those things become a much bigger issue when there's a Republican majority.
Well, nonetheless, what I'm looking for right now is I just need to know that there's a boss in a boss who's willing to be bossy in the state capitol, and I just don't feel that way right now.
Just ask yourself this. Honest to God, ask yourself this question. If Will Ainsworth was governor right now, would he be out on the steps of the Capitol making a speech about this?
Probably.
Yep. That's exactly right.
He'd probably be calling down to Florida saying, hey, DeSantis, you want to do a speech with me? Yeah, he's probably what he'd be doing.
I asked him today, and I'm going to talk to him tomorrow on my radio show. I said, what do you think is going to happen here? And he said, there's not going to be any mask mandates or anything like that. And, I still think she needs to be a little more forceful about that. And why in the world would the Department of Public Health put that stuff out? Normalize masking? Why are we talking like this? What human beings talk like this? This is academic nonsense. We need to normalize the fact that women have periods, and we need to normalize the fact that 2-year-olds might be trans. No, human beings don't act that way. We talk like normal people and say, hey, put the mask on or don't. We need to normalize masking.
It had to have been some summer intern who got hold of the Twitter account. I hope that's what happened.
Well, they made a whole video. I mean, they did a whole
that's true.
thing.
They did. You're right.
I mean, and again, I'm not suggesting Scott Harris is out there chopping up video and stuff, and I
I
know
am.
Ivy's not doing it.
I'll say he is. I heard it from Dale Jackson. Rumors started on Rightside Radio.
He cut it up himself.
He
using
did. He
a
filmed
free
it on his
program at
iPhone. That's what happened.
Yeah, I'm sure. But these guys again, they have to be held accountable for this. In the legislature, how many times do we have to see this before we realize this is an issue? And where are the other doctors who are saying, no, we're not masking? Normal. I mean, look, what's coming up? My son starts, I guess, pre-K here a week from now. A week from tomorrow, I guess it is. Are they going to start saying we need to mask up in schools? I mean, is that coming next?
Well, if I know a little bit about the Jackson family, I'm pretty sure your son will say no.
We did try, honestly, early on in the pandemic. He was like 2 when this was going a little older than 2, and we were like, hey, why don't you see if you'll see? We just wanted to see if he'd wear it when we went into the store. He put it on for 2 seconds and then immediately took it off. And that's the only attempt we ever had to make him wear a mask.
You can't make 2-year-olds wear shoes, man, much less wear.
He's in an underpants thing right now. That's where he's at. He just wants to walk around in his underpants with a shirt on, no shorts. I'm jealous, but I don't think it's a good idea. It's not a good look.
Well, so what I just heard from you is that you do your radio show daily with no pants. That's what I heard.
Hey, sometimes you have no idea. That's the beauty of working from home. I mean, you don't got to worry about that kind of stuff. I think I sound better that way.
Oh, okay. I'm not even going down this road. In fact, I'm going to call this segment over right now. Hey, Dale Jackson, we appreciate you, man. You have a great day.
Sir.
All right, bud. That's Dale Jackson from WVNN up in Huntsville, 92.5 FM, 770 AM, Cumulus Broadcasting, and one of the stations that Rightside Radio is in on. That's where we launched, by the way. It's been a year. But, all right, Boomer, take us to the break, bro. We will do that right now, and we will come right back and wrap this sucker up. And then, hey, at the bottom of the hour, you want to hear some banter, stay tuned in. You thought Dale Jackson had banter? We got Boomer and the Birdman at 3:30. Y'all stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. You got it. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. So, hey, by the way, one more piece on this. Hey, Governor, who's in charge? I got a piece that I wrote for 1819 News. It came out last November. The title of it was, Hey, Alabama Legislature, Why Would You Not? And I was talking to the legislature at the time, but I was also referring quite a bit to Governor Ivey. So one more piece of this, sort of I'm in charge, but I'm not doing anything heavy, hard in charge, was last fall. We were in the thick of the COVID vaccine mandate season, right? We were in the thick of people losing their jobs, of different venues deciding who was allowed to be present and who wasn't, of universities making up the rules as they went along, of hospitals, turning out nurses and doctors, and the madness that ensued with all the vaccine mandates. At that particular time, there were states left and right that were passing laws at the state level because, by the way, the state is the firewall under the 10th Amendment against an overbearing federal government. The state is the firewall. That's why you see your attorney generals filing suit on behalf of their citizens. That's why you see state legislatures passing bills. It's not always what they do to grow state government or to grow economic development or to pass laws that just relate to issues in the state of Alabama. No, sometimes those state governments are designed by nature by virtue of the Constitution. They are designed to have the ability to self-govern. They have a duty, if you will, a sovereign duty under the laws of the nation and their various states, their own state constitution, in this case Alabama's constitution, to defend the interests of their citizens. All right, that being said, there's my opining for a moment. That being said, we had an issue last fall with the vaccine mandates just going bananas. And the governor, she had the opportunity at any given moment, because the authority is vested in her as the governor of the state of Alabama, to call the legislature into special session if there is something that needs to happen. And when that happens, they literally issue what's known as the governor's call, we call it. It's the proclamation issued by the governor that calls the legislature into session and lists for them the things that they will do. She did not want to call them in to deal with COVID vaccine mandates. She did not. In fact, I wrote in the piece that I did in November of last year that it was rumor at the time, but the rumor was from those who worked with her and people telling me that she basically wanted to wait and see. Wait and see. How's this going to go? Wait and see. Let's see what the attorney general can do. Let's wait and see. I don't want to. You're the governor. Do what you want to do. The attorney general is technically within the executive branch of government, runs separately on the ticket, doesn't necessarily have to answer per se to the governor, but they should be able to work hand in glove. But at the same time, the governor doesn't have to wait for the AG. The governor could say, here's what I want to see have happen on behalf of the people that I represent, which, oh, by the way, is 5.1 million people. And she wouldn't do it. So what happened? She had to call the legislature in anyway to do something completely separate, something related to redistricting. They had to draw the lines for redistricting. And so she issued an executive order right before that, an executive order that did nothing. An executive order says, we don't want vaccine mandates. I'm just kind of paraphrasing, obviously, but it was a do-nothing, feel-good, I issued a statement. It's kind of like, I went to the game and I yelled, rah, rah. Or you could be the one who went to the game and you played. All right. The governor issued the call to special session, though, and the legislature, good on them. The legislature came in and took the reins themselves, because once they're in session, if they have a 2/3 majority agree to do things outside the call, they can do it, and they did. And so legislation was passed by our legislature to deal with COVID vaccine mandates, and the governor then had no choice but to sign it. She didn't want it. She didn't issue it in her call. She refused to call them in for that purpose. And thank goodness we had a legislature that was willing to take up the needs of their constituencies at the time. That was a classic example of, hey, Governor Ivey, it's low-hanging fruit, man. We're going to love you if you say it. We're going to love you if you go for it. We're going to love you if you go, poke the federal government in the eye. And she wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. All right, listen, I'm going to tell you, There's this probably any more number of things that I could say about this issue, but it's just as well that we are down to a break because this isn't a gripe session. All right, this is not. But I'm just going to tell you, we need an executive, and right now, if things go the way we expect, she's there for 4 more years, supposedly. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And coming up next, you're going to want to stay tuned. It's Boomer and the Birdman coming on the air. We'll be right back. back. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. Here we are, solid, conservative, and just plain right. I'm sitting here talking to Boomer. He looks at me and goes, that's you. And I was like, what's me? Oh, the music. Okay. Dang, Boomer, what happened? You put the thumb up to tell me it was time to go on the air. You're just staring at me, just talking. Okay. Oh, having too much fun. All right, listen, we're going to go to a segment right now. And by the way, don't forget the whoop whoop sound effect there, brother. So we got to bring the crew in though. So Boomer, you are on the mic. You got your mic right now.
Right here.
You are there. And then we also got the Birdman. Is Birdman with us? Birdman, are you with us?
I am.
You are. All right, good deal. Technology is wonderful. Okay, so Boomer and the Birdman. So here's the deal, y'all. We do this segment. And we basically bring the crew together here. Boomer's right here in studio running the board, does all the things, all the buttons to push, forgets to tell me when to go thumbs up sometimes. That's okay. But then Birdman's out there, whereas Boomer is working in-house, like I used to say about Copper, Boomer's working in-house. Birdman works in the outhouse. He does all the things it takes to keep the tech running on the outside of things, like the website, the social media, all that stuff. Well, the two of them, though, they got opinions, they got thoughts, and so we do this segment, Boomer and the Birdman, where we just kind of run through some questions and get a feel for, where are they on the issues? What do they think about it? All right, fellas, I am trying to find my questions. Here they are. All right, so before we go any further, though, before we start the segment, there's a sound effect that signifies the instigation of the segment. Boomer, hit it. Every time. All right. Okay, fellas. I like this one. Boomer, you're gonna like this one a lot.
I'm excited.
All right. So last year, Aaron Lewis, he's formerly lead singer and guitarist with Stained, which was a heavy metal band. He kind of crossed over into what feels like sort of like a country crossover style. But Aaron Lewis had a hit that came out last July of 2021. It was a pushback on wokeness, and it was called "Am I the Only One?" A great song. And it became a hit before it was ever even released. I mean, he sang it on Fox News or something, and it went like madness. And next thing you know, it's being released online, but I'm telling you, it was the number one song in the nation without even being officially released. Well, this week, John Rich, country music star, John Rich did the exact same thing, an anti-woke song. The song is called Progress. He basically tells people to take your progressiveness and put it where the sun don't shine. That's literally what it says in the song. And the song is now number one. And he didn't release it through normal means, and he doesn't even have a recording contract. He just does his own stuff. So here's my question. Your thoughts why songs like this are resonating with people so much so that they become number one without even trying. Boomer, you first, man. What are you thinking?
Man, I believe they're resonating because everyone can relate to it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I see it. I mean, I honestly love that song from Aaron Lewis and John Rich. I enjoy listening to that, and honestly, myself, just enjoying it and going, yes, yes, yes,
I
yes.
think that's the response. I think it's the yes, yes. I think that's the response.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Let me ask you this, Boomer. You spent a lot of time working in Nashville in the music scene.
Yeah.
John Rich, I mean, this is like on a sidebar here, but John Rich, very conservative. I think you said you've known him in the past, but are there conservatives out there in the music industry that just aren't saying much right now, but they're there?
I believe so. I believe there's honestly a lot of them. I know some of them really stand up for what they believe and what they're believe in their heart and what's right out loud. But I believe there's some of them that are they just don't want to speak out loud.
They don't want to rock the boat.
Maybe not rock the boat. Maybe not lose listeners.
Are there recording contracts that keep them bound from sharing those kind of opinions?
Honestly, I'm not too sure. I'm sure there may be. I know I've read a few contracts in my time with the industry, but I don't really. I mean, at the time when I was reading contracts, I I guess I wasn't looking for those things because it wasn't a a big deal at that point.
All right, Birdman, your thoughts? Why are songs becoming hits like this that push back on wokeness without even having to be released under normal circumstances? Your thoughts?
So here's my basic take on it. It's the music version of Top Gun. That's kind of how I view it.
Nice.
People are wanting to get away from just being pressed into the leftism and the progressiveness and all this kind of stuff. And I think it doesn't hurt it that it's also in the same genre, country, that, a lot of Republicans listen to. It's known for being popular in places like Texas, Alabama, Georgia, that kind of thing. And I think it falls under the same group, really, like the same group of people.
Well, and I agree with you. And by the way, both songs are actually really good songs too.
Yeah,
they really are.
So just to clarify, Aaron Lewis's song from last year is called "Am I the Only One," and John Rich's song this year is called "Progress." Neither one released under normal circumstances, and just went viral. And they went viral, pushing back against woke. All right, so we're told all the time, though, fellas. I'm throwing this one at you kind of loosely here, but we're told all the time that conservatives are the ones in the minority. But Charlene always says there's more of us than there are of them. I think this reaction to these songs proves it. Birdman, what do you think? Boomer was reaching for the mic. Birdman, what do you got?
It does. It fills out a certain category, I feel like, and I think that category is expanding, and it's the people who really want to just live their lives away from nonsense.
Yeah.
And I think people, especially like myself, who communicate a lot through music, are looking at stuff like this and going, "Hey, this is where I belong. This is my crowd."
Boomer, your thoughts? You're about to just like bite the
I
mic.
I was just gonna say, absolutely yes. There's more of us. Only because I really believe some people are just sometimes scared to speak out.
Yeah, and that's a shame.
Yes,
especially. It's right now. What you're not seeing is liberals being scared to speak out because I think they feel emboldened, and I think it's time for conservatives to start feeling a little more emboldened. I appreciate John Rich doing exactly what he just did with that song. All right, next question. You ready before we run out of time? Total switch of subject. Just kind of went through this a few minutes ago with Dale Jackson. The Alabama Department of Public Health issued a social media statement calling for the normalizing of wearing masks. You guys are welcome here. Oh my gosh! Is that a sound effect?
I had to do that. That was a sound effect.
That was terrifying.
That just you got to warn a guy.
It was a spur of the
I
moment.
thought it was
thing.
a nuclear drill or
That's
something.
just how I felt. Sorry,
God
keep going,
almighty.
Phil. I'm sorry.
All right, there's too many buttons available to him on this board over here. All right, your thoughts. Normalizing of wearing masks. Your thoughts. Your tax dollars at work. Birdman, you first this time.
I'm not even remotely surprised. I drive by a billboard every single day from the Department of Health that says vaccinate your kids before you send them to school. This isn't surprising. This nonsensical virtue signaling is exactly what this administration is trying to push, and it's for the people who have the mind that they enjoy this kind of stuff. They like the holier than thou conversations rather than actually taking any sort of real action. So this is not surprising that our government and our federal government is pushing this kind of stuff.
So holier than thou without taking real action. I like that. All right, so Boomer, masking, normalizing, your thoughts. What are you thinking?
Not surprised they would say it. It's complete nonsense and absolutely not.
Put your mask back on, Boomer. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Nope.
No, I agree. I get it. I think you guys get it. What'd you say it was virtue signaling, Birdman? I think you're right.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Well, you say that, but then I don't think I've seen a retraction. Has anybody seen a retraction on the story? Boomer, you seen a retraction? I haven't seen one.
No, sir.
Birdman, you seen a retraction on this?
I haven't.
Now, the governor did ask for them to, perhaps rethink it, I think. I think it was what?
I was going to say, just like you were saying earlier in the show, why did she not stand up for it and say, no, not on my watch?
She kind of gave that's just not in my, something about Rocky Mountain oysters and yeah.
Well, I don't know much about that.
The worst possible response she could have given.
And
yes.
High stepping. What, Rocky Mountain oysters?
Well, it's not in my vocabulary thing.
Yeah, well, I think that was probably really just her, her media team doing that for her. But they were trying to keep the kind of quippy, no step too high for a high stepper, trying to keep that kind of image going, and it just, I mean, Rocky Mountain oysters, just go ahead and say, hey, my people don't need this. This is wrong. Stop the madness. How about no? I mean, there's a time and a place for being quippy, and there's a time and a place for being in charge, and I didn't feel like she was in charge on this one.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, perfect time for a break. So, Boomer, no sound effects. Let's go straight to the break. All right, folks, we'll come right back with more Boomer and the Birdman sitting here in the studio with a great team. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. So we are back right now with a segment we like to call Boomer and the Birdman. So, hey, fellas, by the way, what other sound effects do you have over there, Boomer? I mean, just tell me. Don't hit the button.
Oh, man, I almost hit it. I have a laughter one.
You have a laughter one? Hit the laughter.
It's kind of like scary. I haven't found a better one yet.
Okay, don't ever do that again. That's like, the Wicked Witch of the West has said, I'll get
gotta
you,
find a
my
better
pretty. What else do you got over there?
I got a siren.
You got a siren?
Yes, sir.
Hit that one. All right, turn that off. That's going to give people paroxysms. All right.
I got to find better ones.
So is that all you got?
That's all I got right now.
Okay. We need a bomb going off. We need
Ooh.
one that goes kaboom.
We do need a bomb.
Yeah, all right. All right. By the way, shout out to David from Huntsville, who just texted and said he and his family are on vacation sitting on the beach down in Dauphin Island and listening to the show. Thank you very much, David. Appreciate you. And Allie, I think, was Allie from Florence, I believe. Anyway, Allie or Athens, was taken aback, I think, by your sound effect. She said it reminded her of Duck and Cover, which I think was the sound effect they probably had in Baghdad for when the missiles were coming in. All right, back to the questions. Birdman, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay, you just sitting here listening to me opine for a minute? All right, just hang on 1 second. I'll find my questions. Here they are. Okay. All right, listen, this was a total aside, all right? Total separate question from the things we've done before. Internationally speaking, all right, recent reports indicate the Chinese government might be scarfing up people's DNA information from, like medical and genealogy websites. You spit in a cup or send them some kind of body sample, and next thing you know, they tell you your family tree and all that kind of stuff. But here's just hang on. But here's the deal. What we're finding right now is that there are serious concerns that China may be scarfing up these DNA samples to do warfare research and perhaps even developing targeting bioweapons. Studies show that younger generations, though, in America are less likely to question the privacy issues involved in stuff like this. What are your thoughts on it? Sending DNA in, that kind of thing. Is your generation, and by the way, you guys are both about a few years apart, so is your generation more or less likely to say, I don't get it, what's the big deal? Who you want to go first? Boomer, you first.
Yeah.
All right.
I think my generation would be like, no, thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Can I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think today's generation is just so used to technology. When you're online, you're having to say yes to this, and they don't even really read anything because they're just so used to trying to get to their new TikTok or whatever, and they're just so used to it. They don't really care what goes out.
Yeah. Nobody reads the security agreements. They
Correct.
just click I read it, and then they go on to the next
Correct.
thing. And
Mhm.
yeah. I see that. What about you, Birdman? What do you think?
All right, I got two things on this. So, for one, it blows my mind that people are surprised by this because if you look at things like Ancestry.com
Yeah.
and who owns them being owned by Blackstone and stuff like that, who's deeply connected to the government, it blows my. I have been saying for years that things like Ancestry.com is an awful place to go and willingly give up your DNA. There's a difference between giving up your DNA and giving up, your tracking info for advertisements on Instagram. Now, I gotta on the flip side or the back half of this question, I gotta play the offended millennial card here, just because I gotta question this. I really would like to see these studies and what mediums that quote unquote younger people are using to give up their privacy with, because I know a lot of older people who put their entire life on Facebook, use services like Ancestry.com, all this kind of stuff, stream when they're on vacation so people know their house is empty, that kind of thing. I'd love to see that medium that they're saying that young people give it all up at.
It was a poll. Polls are always right. You know that, Birdman. Offended millennial. Did you hear that?
I did.
He's the offended millennial, Boomer.
Sorry about that, Birdman.
Hey, there's a sign right here in the studio that says there's a $5 charge for whining on this show. All right?
I'm not whining. I promise. It's not whining. I'm just devil's advocate, okay?
Okay. Well, just, okay, never mind. All right. We'll just move on. All right, listen, before we run out of time, one of the favorite pieces every single time of Boomer and the Birdman is stupidest story of the week, stupidest story of the week. And you guys always find stuff that I've never seen or heard of. So, who started? I think you started first last time, Boomer. So I'm going to go Birdman. Birdman, stupidest story of the week. What have you got?
Okay, so this time I have a funny one because normally mine are serious or depressing.
You are rather somber sometimes, yes.
All right. So a group of guys at a campground in Rexburg, Idaho, in a drunken stupor, had to be intervened by the county sheriff's department because they caught a pelican and were carrying it around the campground. And
Okay.
now the pelican is federally protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act.
Okay.
And by definition, by law, they broke a federal law by picking this thing up and carrying it for an extended period of time. Because in the U.S. code, which I have pulled up here, it actually says transportation, carry, or cause to be carried is federally illegal to carry this bird, and so these guys were arrested.
So it started with, "Hey, hold my beer," and then
Yes.
and then it went south from there, and now they're facing fines for toting a bird around a KOA campground, is what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
All right, so lesson learned: don't get drunk and tote birds. That's not a good idea. Before we run out of time, Boomer, what have you got?
I'll go really quick.
All
It's
right.
not really stupid. This is actually
gotta be
going back to my
stupid.
it's going back to my childhood. It's about the Goonies. I mean, who doesn't
wow.
like the Goonies?
I love the Goonies.
Yeah, well, there's a mysterious shipwreck found off the Oregon coast, and they believe that the Goonies movie was kind of started because of this, and they started finding all this 300-year-old wood from a ship, a Spanish ship, and they actually found it in a cave off the Oregon coast.
Well, okay. Why is that stupid? I don't think
It's
that's
not stupid. I just liked it because it was the Goonies, and
He
then
can't change
last time you told me
Birdman.
to read the
All right,
whole
hit
thing,
the,
and
hit
I got
the,
really
hit the buzzer sound effect real quick. That was hit it right now. Go. All right. God almighty. All right. I did see you had one on your screen a minute ago. I thought you were going to go with something about a pastor who was actually robbed while live streaming his sermon.
streaming. Yes, but I really like the Goonies, so I
So
had to
he-
say that one too. I know it wasn't. I needed the buzzer on that one.
Birdman, he's the new guy. He doesn't know he can't change the rules in midstream. I don't know.
He'll get it eventually.
All right, guys. I appreciate you both. Thank you much, Boomer and the Birdman. Absolutely. All right, and Birdman, we'll talk to you soon, bud. Thanks for dialing in. All right, we're there. We're down to the 4:00 hour. Those of you on our Birmingham affiliates, we appreciate you. We love you. We're back here tomorrow at 2:00. You're going to have coming up next my friend Greg Davis with Priority Talk. The rest of you folks up there in the Huntsville market, we're continuing on another hour. Y'all stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
All right, Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here from the Rightside Studio. Local, state, national, man, we're covering all the issues. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. And oh, by the way, having a good time doing it. So that's you got to keep that good attitude going, man. All right, listen, I am moving to number 2 on the Triple Dipper. I mean, we got an hour to go, but I got 2 dips left to get into if we can get there. But number 2 on the Triple Dipper today, a walk in Biden's world. Okay. Every once in a while you got to do this, right? You got to remind the world that it's not always what the media is talking about. There's more news. And that's one of the reasons why this show exists is literally to do some of the deeper dives, to do the resourcing, to get on here and have the conversations, to bring people in to help, provide some color commentary when we can. And so when we do this, by the way, I am literally seeing probably, I would say, 2 to 3 hours a day in preparation for the 3-hour broadcast because we want to be resource intensive to the extent we can. I don't want to come on here and just say, it's me and I got opinions. I mean, I do have opinions and I'm free to share them. But nonetheless, I want to make sure you guys know that we've put the time into trying to put together a show that provides gainful and real-time information. All right, having said that, a walk in Biden's world. Now, policy decisions affect us left and right more than, sometimes you would look at it and go, it doesn't really affect me. I don't see why what's happening in Ukraine really affects me. Maybe. Then again, maybe the grain exports from Ukraine drive up grain prices worldwide and we wind up getting stuck with the impacts. I don't really see what's going on with China and Taiwan, okay? But maybe your nephew or your niece or the kid next door, or for that matter, one of your family members is looking at a potential deployment in the event that things go really bad. You might want to pay attention. I'm just saying, there's so many things happening right now in the world that aren't getting reported. Well, and by the way, there's also sort of a blindness in this administration, it seems, to the manner in which these things are happening, or why they're happening, or if they're even happening at all. And classic example, this is a look-back moment here on this one. Walking in Biden's world, well, this story just came out July 24th, yesterday. Story I pulled off the Washington Examiner, because it just ticked me off. CIA director proud of Afghanistan analysis despite the disastrous Taliban takeover. This is the Biden amendment. Now, you remember last year the debacle that was the Afghanistan pullout. I remember the story broke on the news while I was on air. And it became several more weeks of a thing, man. I mean, I'm talking about the show became like heavily dedicated to the massive debacle that was the Biden pullout of Afghanistan. Well, a part of that was based on the analysis that Biden's advisors were also giving him. Oh, this is going to go fine. What could go wrong? Mr. President, it's going to be great. And the Taliban, we've kind of got them in their place. No. So this week, CIA Director William Burns said he is, quote, very proud of the agency's analysis in Afghanistan in 2021, despite being blindsided by the swift collapse of the Afghan government and failing to predict how quickly the Taliban would take Kabul. Because they did. The Taliban just rolled right in. They're in charge now. And they're in charge with an incredible amount of, U.S. materiel and logistics and weaponry. And it says the Taliban rapidly took over Afghanistan in mid-August amid a chaotic U.S. military withdrawal and a suicide bombing by ISIS-K that month that killed 13 U.S. service members and at least 170 Afghan civilians as the United States led evacuation operations at the airport, with the Taliban providing security. Like that was going to go well. Hundreds of Americans and tens of thousands of Afghan allies and interpreters were still in the country when the U.S. left before the end of August. We just abandoned them in place. Just just in a desperate attempt to say, I did a thing, I ended the war, I did a thing. Well, okay, you did a thing, Mr. President, and you did it horribly. And meanwhile, his CIA director is proud of the analysis they did. The CIA director prefaced this admission of being very proud by admitting the agency had not predicted the Taliban would take over the country as fast as they did, and that, quote, all of us have lessons to learn from experiences like that. Yeah, like how about the families of the dead? They learned a lot of lessons too. They learned y'all don't know what you're doing. That's a whole lot of jackwagon right there is what that is. All right, but that's what we're looking at right now. Take a walk in Biden's world. That's the lens through which they are viewing things right now. Meanwhile, what's happening at home? PJ Media reports as of this weekend. PJ Media reports Biden administration is bracing for a tsunami of bad economic news next week. That's this week. In fact, what we're looking at right now is we've got consumer confidence numbers are going to hit tomorrow, Tuesday. There's a Federal Reserve meeting with a press conference by Fed Chair Jerome Powell on Wednesday. And then there's the first reading of the second quarter economic growth, which comes on Thursday. It's going to be like they say in this article, a tsunami of potentially bad economic news. Politico is calling it the bad economic news Category 5 storm. Here's the deal. If GDP growth is dropping again like they think it's going to be, then according to the article here from PJ Media, there's no amount of spin by the administration or Democrats that's going to avoid the conclusion the nation has officially reached a recession. This is a walk in Biden's world. So what we're looking at right now is inflation at epic high numbers, 40-year highs. We got fuel costs through the roof. Oh, but they're declining. They're down. They're down from where they were last month right now. Where are they compared to last year, sir? Don't try to gaslight us. We know that they're dropping a little bit right now. We also know where they were when you took office. A walk in Biden's world, well, right now, a walk in Biden's world, his policies are driving this economy. The massive reckless spending is flooding money into the system, and yet disrupting the disruptions of the supply chain are not allowing goods to be available for the cash that's in hand, so it drives up the cost of goods. Too little goods, too much cash. We're looking at recession right now, a walk in Biden's world. All right, let's step back outside the borders. By the way, I realized that we just laughed and had a good time a few minutes ago, and now it's like all of a sudden Phil went dark on you. Well, I apologize. I'm just having to bring in a healthy dose of wow. But I'm not sure what that was. I just coined that, by the way, Boomer. It's a healthy dose of wow. So
Healthy dose of wow.
healthy dose of wow,
Yep.
which ain't always good, by the way. But in this case, 1945.com, a website that I go to periodically for mostly military policy type stories. Here's a story from 1945.com dated this weekend. You ready for this headline? Iran as a nuclear weapon state is terrifying. Israel may attack before that happens. Now, in my opinion, Israel would attack before that happens. They've said they would. They're not going to allow a nuclear Iran if they can help it. They already, in the past, the Israelis attacked reactors in, where were they? One in Iraq, I believe, the Osirak. Was it Osirak? And then they had another one in Syria. Here's the article, as a matter of fact. Israel attacked Iraq's attempts at building a nuclear reactor in 1981 and Syria in 2007. The problem is, they point out in this article, that Iran is not Iraq or Syria, whereas Iraq only had the Osirak and Syria just had the Al-Kabar. It says Iran's nuclear program is scattered all over the country. And that, by the way, is by design, I'm sure, to avoid a single strike debilitation of their nuclear efforts. It says on top of this, Iran is both larger and farther away than either Syria or Iraq. Iran is almost 4 times the size of Iraq. It would take more than a dozen targets to be taken out in order to cripple Iran's nuclear program. However, at a speech to the International Student House on July 12th, Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman demonstrated the Biden administration's, according to 1945.com, magical thinking towards Iran. State Department spokesman Ned Price insisted last week there was a deadline for negotiations. We're going to get there an Iran nuclear deal. And what we're looking at right now is they see unicorns, while the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps now openly mocks their attempts. Um, and Team Biden is basing their Iran strategy, it says in this article, on fantasy rather than reality, which could quickly lead to a worst case scenario. We are looking at some estimates, this is me talking now based on other sources that I've read, that Iran could literally be weeks, if not months, potentially. I should say it the other way around, months, if not weeks, away from a nuclear breakout, being able to field their own nuclear devices. And that's not good. A walk in Biden's world. What else do we have here? JustTheNews.com. JustTheNews.com. As long as I'm depressing you, let's talk about energy. With strategic petroleum reserves at lowest levels since 1985, the U.S. now sells stockpiled oil to China. I have no explanation for this, but here we are. According to JustTheNews.com, dated yesterday, while U.S. strategic petroleum reserve stockpiles have fallen to their lowest level since 1985, every congressional Democrat voted last Wednesday to continue sending oil from the strategic reserves to China. I have no explanation for this. It says supplies have continuously dwindled since Biden took office. It says during Biden's first month in office, the U.S. had about 638 million barrels in reserve. And by March, 1 month into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, reserves had fallen to 565 million barrels. In other words, it was not the invasion of Ukraine that did this, because they were already discharging oil from strategic reserves well before that. And then by July, 480 million barrels were left. America's reserves have not been this low since 1985. So in response to all this, a congressional Republican offered a motion last week to immediately consider legislation that would prohibit the sale of oil drawn from the strategic reserves to entities under the control of the Chinese Communist Party or for export to China, and every House Democrat voted against the motion, every one of them. And that same day, 19 House Republicans sent a letter to Energy Secretary Granholm demanding to know why her department sold nearly 1 billion barrels of strategic oil to an American subsidiary of Sinopec, a Chinese company, the same company, by the way, in which Hunter Biden is invested heavily. Whew, Lord, that was a whole lot in that one article. Well, I tell you what, Boomer, take us to the break, man. I'm going to come right back. I got plenty more. I got a stack of stuff here. A walk in Biden's world. What's happening in Ukraine right now? What's happening in Damascus, Syria? Are Iranian soldiers in Syria? Yeah. And what did General Milley say about China? A walk in Biden's world. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid conservative, just plain right, saving the world one soundbite at a time, I like to say. So, yeah, hey, by the way, let me just do this. Let me jump in here and say, folks, let me lighten the mood a little bit, all right? I'm going to go back to things that are happening in a walk in Biden's world. Before I do that, though, let me just point out, Just Love Coffee Cafe is a great way to change the mood. You've had a long day at work and you're heading home. You're thinking, ugh, the stuff. I mean, like you had the deadlines you had to make. You had all the things you got to do. You got meetings, you got Zooms, you got whatever. You know, the boss redlined your report, whatever. I'm just saying, maybe you need a break. Maybe tomorrow during the day, you just take that lunch break and you go to Just Love Coffee Cafe and you sit there and you enjoy the atmosphere. You get you a cappuccino or something like that, and if that matter, eat lunch. They got amazing food. They got sandwiches, they got wraps, they got salads, they got breakfast you can have for dinner. I'm just saying, Just Love Coffee Cafe is way more than just coffee. It's Just Love Coffee Cafe, which is like an atmosphere. So check them out. 2 locations in our listening area. One on Hughes Road in Madison out towards City Hall. The other on South Memorial Parkway in Huntsville over towards Whole Foods. So, yeah, Just Love Coffee Cafe. I'm thinking that's the way to go. Check them out. Tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio, too, by the way. Okay, so listen, I am back in my segment right now I'm doing called A Walk in Biden's World. I got to remind you, thank you, Boomer, I got to remind you we have a new phone number. If you are looking to call into the show, by the way, not much time to call in this segment, but right after the bottom of the hour news, I'd love to hear from some of you folks during the drive home. The new phone number is pretty easy. Now, if I say it out loud, it's 833-687-4448. The way I like to say it is, it's 833-68-RIGHT. That's the number, 833-68-RIGHT, which comes out as 833-687-4448. Pray tell, Phil, why do you have that number? Well, the right part is pretty obvious. The 68, I get to choose that because I had a 68 Mustang. That was my baby for many years. So, yes, so 833-68-RIGHT. That's our new phone number. Call on in. I'd love to hear from you. A walk in Biden's world. Story off the Financial Post dated yesterday. Ukraine is working to resume grain exports, flags Russian strikes as a risk. Well, so here's the deal. You can't trust the Russians. So Russia entered into a deal. It was signed. It was hailed as a diplomatic breakthrough that was going to help, curb soaring global food prices and all that by restoring Ukrainian grain shipments. Ukraine is really one of the breadbaskets of Europe, really one of the breadbaskets of the world. And they are a grain export. They are a net exporter of grain to the world, and they've been blocked because of the war. One of their main ports of export is the port at Odessa. And it's been blocked on the Black Sea by the Russian Navy. Well, a deal was signed. Looked like things were going to be, ramping up. President Volodymyr Zelensky, though, had to denounce the fact that Russia then, right after they signed it, launched missile strikes on Odessa. Oh, okay. Now, they didn't hit the port, but they hit things in and around the port. Were they sending a signal? Was it someone rogue within the Russian ranks? Because we hear their communications lines are not that great. Or was it a message being sent by Moscow, the Kremlin itself? I don't know. All I know is this. It's a mess. And that war is about 160 days in right now. And Ukraine is giving it to them hard. But it's a war of attrition. And right now what we're seeing, that's Russia's style, by the way. That's their playbook, a war of attrition. And they're hanging in there. Speaking of Russia, Times of Israel has a piece, says Damascus Air Base, Iranian warehouse said hit an alleged Israeli strike. So Israel launched airstrikes in Syria near the capital of Damascus on a base where it is believed that not only were Syrian forces operating, but that Iran's Expeditionary Quds Force was also operating and even had their own arms stored there. Keep in mind, too, that Russia has been very active in propping up the Assad regime in Syria, and that's been a huge deal, a walk in Biden's world. These things are happening left and right as we speak. Lastly, before we hit the break, I'll point out this. General Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, just recently announced that there is great concern about a more aggressive and dangerous China. In his words, he says, they are notably more aggressive. General Keane gave commentary yesterday, this is off the AP News, that he believes there is reason to be very concerned about a near-term option by China against Taiwan. And folks, that's a game changer in the Pacific if it happens. All right, listen, that's a walk in Biden's world. Hope I didn't depress you. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Coming up next segment, I'm just going to make you mad. It's called What's the Agenda? I got some angry woke news we'll go through. And if you want to call in, 833-68-RIGHT. I'd love to hear from you. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, I've got number 3 of the Triple Dipper. Boomer, I made it to number 3. I got all the way to the 3rd dip.
Man, that's
doesn't
really
always-
good.
It doesn't always happen, but that's usually a sign of a full show. But yeah, despite the fact that it's a full show, we're going to head into number 3 on the Triple Dipper, and it's basically, I've called it "What's the Agenda?" It's a series of things that are happening out there. You look at it and you go, "That's not a one-off. That didn't just happen because some summer intern got hold of the Twitter account. No, that's legit agenda stuff right there. That's something's going on behind the scenes, and that's one of the symptoms that we're seeing." Well, I'll tell you a few stories about this. Before I do, though, let me just take a call. I got line 1, Brian from Huntsville. Brian, how you doing today?
Doing well, and it sounds like you gentlemen are also, except you're about to make everybody mad. But to go back to a walk in Joe Biden's world,
Yeah.
which is, I think I can see, if I look through his eyes, exactly why he's selling off our strategic petroleum reserve. That's because we don't need this much fuel after he gave away all our equipment in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
We don't have as much to fuel.
Yeah, well, there is that. And it may be part of his, what he called it, the necessary transition. The pain is part of the necessary transition.
Now think about what that equipment could have done in Poland, shoring up things around that area.
Oh, no doubt. For that matter, what could it have done just stockpiling it here and being able to put it where we need it at another time?
Indubitably, our National Guard always needs replacements and upgrades.
Absolutely, but 60,000 of our National Guard are about to be axed due to COVID vaccine mandates. So the whole thing is just a debacle.
Okay, well, that just made me mad. So I really look forward to the next segment. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you, as always. Yeah, folks, you want to call in? We'll just take calls. I'm going to go through my next segment here. Yes, some of the stuff I've got on this list is probably going to make you mad. Why? Because I know this audience, y'all think like I do. You're a bunch of right-side ruffians, and it made me mad. But if you want to call in, I'll take calls throughout, all right? So we'll just pause and take a call. 833-68-RIGHT. That's the number, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Okay, let's start with this one. Okay, brace yourself. Boomer, strap in, man. All right. Story off of justthenews.com. Remember this segment, this part of the Triple Dipper is called "What's the Agenda?" There are things happening, and they are not just happenstance. They weren't just one-off opportunities for somebody to screw something up. They weren't just a thing that somebody went, "Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't mean for that to happen." No, they meant for it to happen because there's an agenda. So what's the agenda? That's the name of this section of the Triple Dipper. Here's the first story I've got, dated Saturday, July 23rd, from justthenews.com. GOP lawmakers question the constitutionality of State Department grants to spread atheism abroad. You heard me. Republican lawmakers are questioning the constitutionality of a Biden State Department program to fund the spread of atheism and humanism internationally. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. There's an actual plan. I'm going to give you a quote for it. It says, at the end of June, a group of 15 Republican members of Congress wrote to President Biden and Secretary of State Blinken about a State Department funding program from April of 2021 that would, quote, award grants of up to $500,000 to organizations committed to the practice and spread of atheism and humanism in South Central Asia and the Middle East and North Africa. What in God's name? What is the agenda here? Well, the Biden administration's made it clear. They just basically think that the acceptance of atheism and humanism is part of the American culture, I guess. I don't know. But the lawmakers, they had to take the high road. Even though this is a grievance to the foundation of our nation, this is a grievance to the founding fathers and the principles of Christianity that so often have been what built this nation. But they go ahead, they took the high road. They said they note that both atheism and humanism are, quote, official belief systems, and that any program to, basically sponsor these belief systems would have to be unconstitutional. Here's the kicker for me on this. At the bottom of the article, it says, observing that atheism has long been the shared religion of progressives and communists, they said, as our country becomes more and more close to communism, as we get more and more progressives in government, it should not be surprising that Joe Biden wants to educate the world that one of the reasons for our success is apparently our belief in atheism. Who said this one? Heritage Foundation guy said this. And he urged, here's the important piece, he urged the slumbering American clergy to wake up and warn Americans of Biden administration's promotion of atheism. You heard me. It's a real article. Go look it up on justthenews.com. But oh, by the way, it's a real grant program for the promotion of atheism and humanism using your tax dollars in foreign countries. If that doesn't make you mad, makes you wonder, what's the agenda here? What is your actual purpose? Why would they even go down this road? I mean, I look at this and think, that's the most, I was about to say god-awful, but that's like a pun. That is absolutely an inappropriate and complete, unjustifiable use of our tax dollars. $500,000 grants to support the spread of atheism in foreign countries. What the heck? All right, let me make you mad on something else. You want to call in 833-68-RIGHT. That's the number. Here's the next one. What's the agenda? Well, this agenda is pretty obvious. All right, the smells of childhood. Boomer, I don't know about your childhood, man. I've known you most of your childhood, actually, and your adulthood. But like, what are there certain smells, like certain things, like if you just smell it, it takes you back to, like mom's cooking or some special something you played with, some toys.
Yes, I can think of 3 right now. Cookies, homemade cookies.
Oh yeah.
The smell of like the pine in Christmas.
Oh yeah, the Christmas tree, absolutely.
Yeah, and then honestly, the smell of a baseball field.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were a big baseball player. You had a college scholarship to play baseball, didn't you? Yeah. It's yeah. And the pine is not the little air freshener hanging on the mirror in your car. You're talking about the real, yeah,
the real deal.
All right.
The real deal.
All right. Well, some of the smells of my childhood too, and by the way, I would agree with all those. 2 of the smells of my childhood. Some of y'all can identify with this. Play-Doh. Oh man, you open the can of Play-Doh, you can smell it. I mean, I guarantee you there are people out there who immediately began to smell Play-Doh in their minds. Here's the other one. Crayola crayons. You like the new school year, you get your school supplies, and one of them is the fresh box of crayons. None of them are broken yet. They've all still got their points on them. And I was never the kid that got the 64 pack with the little sharpener in the side of the box. I didn't get that. I was always having to borrow, the strange colors from my buddy who always had the most crayons. How about this? TheBlaze.com reports as of yesterday. Crayola crayon has gone woke and faces a boycott after being accused of pushing transgender agendas to children.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not kidding you, man.
Oh.
I'm sitting there looking at it. What's the agenda? That's the number 3 on the Triple Dipper. What's the agenda here? Crayola, the crayon company, is accused by TheBlaze.com of pushing a transgender agenda to small children. The crayon company is now facing a potential boycott as parents get, livid over this. Here's the deal. Crayola, which reportedly has a target market of ages 2 to 10, shared images of a transgender model on its social media accounts. Crayola promoted Julian Gavino, a.k.a. the Disabled Hippie. There's a title. On the crayon company's Facebook and Instagram pages to celebrate Disability Pride Month. I guess we're in double pride now. Disability Pride Month. Why don't we just have? It's about to be Pride Year, I think, at this point. Anyway, Julian Cavino, and then they quickly insert the pronouns he, him, is a fashion model, writer, and activist who identifies as a transgender man. Okay, so he, him is really a she. Anyway. Born with a progressive neurological condition, Julian is passionate about advocating for his respective communities. Julian is determined to normalize disabled and trans bodies in the fashion world. By the way, that's all in quotes on Crayola's website or social media. Crayola posted 3 images of Gavino, including one where he is wearing a leopard print jumpsuit and another with a lime green jacket with a chain bra, as well as latex pants and high-heeled boots. Crayola then disabled all comments on its Instagram and limited who could comment on Facebook. You know why? Because they couldn't stand the pressure. That's why. Because there's a bunch of folks out there who would qualify as Rightside ruffians who literally went, what in God's name has happened to the smells of my childhood? And they, by the way, they quote some of the comments on Twitter, and you can imagine what they were. Hashtag boycott Crayola quickly became a trending on Twitter. What you got?
I just texted my wife and said we got to throw those crayons away.
Did you really?
Yeah.
No doubt.
I just said You should call in. This is infuriating.
I'm saying, and I've probably got right side ruffians that are like going blind with rage as they drive home on the roads in our listening area. Okay, let me. Which one do I want here? Go through your stack, Phil. What else can you make people mad with as we finish out the day? Which one do I want next? How about this one? Ford to lay off thousands in order to bankroll its green transition. I just keep your microphone muted right now, bud. Just keep your microphone muted. It's all right. Contain. So Ford, Daily Caller reports this as of yesterday. Ford Motor Company is moving to lay off thousands of workers in order to fund its electric vehicles program that supports the Biden administration's climate goals, according to Bloomberg. The automaker is planning to lay off 8,000 of its employees to raise profits and pay for its ramp-up of EV production, Bloomberg reported Wednesday. Ford will spend roughly $50 billion, according to Reuters, to make 2 million electric vehicles by 2026, after selling just 27,000 in 2021. So in 5 years, they're going to go from 27,000 to 2 million, and the plan includes they have to lay off 8,000 employees to do this. In a speech this last Wednesday, President Joe Biden said his green energy transition will ultimately create more jobs. When I think about climate change, I think jobs, Biden said. Surely he was reading the teleprompter when he said it. Well, a Ford spokesman did not comment on possible job cuts, but told the Daily Caller that changes are underway across the company to deliver on its transformation plan. In other words, they're being forced into it. The industry is being forced into it. And what do they have to do? They got to make changes. What does that mean? Lay people off. That's where we are. What's the agenda? Well, the agenda there is absolutely move forward with the green energy, because it's like I said the other day when I gave my monologue on hot sauce liberals. They don't care about the pain. It's important to get this done. This is important. This is absolutely necessary. It's part of the transition, said President Biden. Take me to a break, Boomer. Take me to a break right now. Do not delay. I got to calm down before I get to these last couple. I don't know, like, how are illegal migrants using their arrest warrants as IDs? Or how about the child rapist and murderer who is now lauded as a feminist advocate? Or, I don't know, how about the fact that Google is apparently suppressing searches for pro-life pregnancy centers? What's the agenda? Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. Listen, before we go too much further, I got to tell you, I had the good news earlier. In my segment about Governor Ivey, and I said I'll call good things when I see them. One of the good things that I was able to call out was that Alabama just hit record unemployment, like lows, record low unemployment. Let's say it the right way. It's good. 2.7% unemployment is awesome. But there are still people out there looking for jobs, and I know it. And there are still employers looking for people to fill the ranks of their workforce. So if you are in either one of those categories, an individual looking for a job or an employer looking for people to hire, ZLA Solutions may be your solution. ZLA Solutions is like epic good at matching jobs with people. Go to their website, zlausa.com. They've got good jobs posted all over North Alabama. And oh, by the way, they can help you employers with all the recruiting, the background checks, the drug testing if necessary. They can do it all. Blue collar, white collar, no collar, it don't matter. ZLA Solutions. They like to say at ZLA, we don't make it, we just make it better. And it's true. Their mission in life is to make your business better. So check them out, ZLA Solutions at zlausa.com. All right, I got a caller who held on during the break, and I appreciate that. So let me just grab that real quick. Micah from Hartselle. Hey, Micah, Phil Williams, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, listen, I've sat back and I've watched conservatives in this country for 30 years, and what they tend to do is get angry, and then by the time the election season rolls around, they forgot what they were so angry about, which kind of extinguishes their fire.
Yeah.
When you're talking about Crayola, companies like Crayola, I would say, rather than just become angry about the situation, I know there's a boycott that's trending right now. But what about all the churches and the conservatives, just Alabama conservatives, are churches that teach Vacation Bible School and Sunday school? How about they send a letter and let them know that they're going to boycott them based on their marketing choices? Because being angry is not enough.
I totally agree. And some might say that's cancel culture. I would not. I would say it's making a choice just not to participate in what they're doing. And I think it's important for the churches, like you mentioned churches, it's important for churches to begin speaking up. I think we've got to have the clergy saying something about this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. It's our responsibility. It's our duty.
Yeah, totally agree. Micah, thanks for hanging on, man. Appreciate you being in the audience. You have a great day. All right, listen, we're up against it. It's 4:55 p.m. Let me just go ahead and make you mad a little bit more before you go. I'm not even sure. I mean, like there's one story I've got here that's so awful that I can't read all the details. Post Millennial wrote the very, very graphic story. So like I said, I'm not going to go in. It describes in great detail the reasons why this person should not be a hero. Headline is Child Rapist and Murderer Lauded as a Feminist and Advocate for LGBTQ Rights. Patricia Elaine Trimble, according to the Post Millennial, a biological male, who is now identifying, of course, as a female, who raped 2 9-year-old girls and who murdered a developmentally disabled cellmate while incarcerated, has been recently celebrated in left-wing media as a, quote, transgender woman, feminist, and activist. Trimble's been spending time in prison advocating for the rights of the, quote, incarcerated LGBTQ plus community. Is a regular contributor to the Prison Journalism Project. It's a nonprofit organization that gives a platform for prison inmates. And in 2019, Trimble published an academic paper in the Harvard Kennedy School student publication LGBTQ Policy. They have this overly rosy view of this guy who just only became a so-called transgender recently. Vice published a rosy portrait of Trimble, it says in the article in 2019, that focused on his transgender journey, but never mentions the double child rape convictions and only glossed over the murder charge. Listen, they go into the details then, they pulled the cases, and I can't do it on the air. I'm not going to do it to you. But suffice to say, that is not a hero. That is somebody to be shunned. You can love them and want them to know the Lord, but you do not have to sanction their behavior and call them a hero in the process. Which one do I have next? Which one do I want to do? I'll tell you, I'll do this one. I'll do this one because it's fresh right now, because Charlene's got to get her, my lovely wife has got to get her star ID, I guess. The star ID. Wow. Anyway, and she's got to have like 15,000 forms of identification, you know, everything that proves where you live, who you are, who you're married to. Is it really you? I don't know. Are they going to ask for biometric data, you know, DNA samples, you know, urine samples? I don't know. How about this? That's for us, but townhall.com reports Senator Josh Hawley calls out the TSA for allowing illegal migrants to use their arrest warrants as ID to get on planes. Yes, Boomer's having like a apoplectic fit over here. Senator Josh Hawley interrogated the TSA Administrator David Pekoski for allowing illegal migrants to use arrest warrants as a form of identification when flying across the country. Tell me what the agenda is here. So he went and asked him, and Pekoski said, "Well, only under 1,000 have used the civil arrest warrants or as note for identification. Under 1,000, oh, it's only a little bit bad, like 1,000. How about no? How about if we have to get star IDs that require 97 forms of identification, that we shouldn't be seeing them using their arrest warrants because they're here illegal to get on planes in the U.S. of A. All right, what's the agenda? I think you can tell what the agenda is. All right, folks, I love you. I hate to make you mad right as we go home, but we'll be back here tomorrow, and I'll try to find something more cheerful to start off with. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, coming up next. You got the great one, Mark Levin. Boomer and I back here tomorrow, too. Y'all have a great night.